You can leave. We're actually on TV now. We're on live.
Because we're finding people are getting cut off, and Allison's having a hard time hearing if you're constantly going on, off, so.
We'll just leave it on. Keep them on.
All right.
So I think we need to.
Um,
Everyone green?
I'm green. We're all green
I'm green now.
till I turn everyone off. Call to order the Planning Commission meeting being held in the Greenfield City Hall on Tuesday, August 13th. Oh, that's the September 10th, 2019 at 6 p.m. Number one, call roll.
Alderperson Kastner.
Present?
Denise Collins. Present. Brad Sponholz. Brian Weiss.
Present.
Christine Helene. Don Carlson.
Present.
Bob Krentz. Mayor Knightsky and Steve Rogers are excused.
Item number two, approval of the minutes from the August 13th, 2019 meeting.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries unanimously. Who's all voting here?
Everyone,
All right.
there's two people missing.
I didn't hear anything down there. Discussion regarding the last two common council meetings?
Yes, the Common Council held public hearings for Tsunami Car Wash and Starbucks, and both projects were approved.
Okay. Item four, signage plan appeal for the Panera Bread, an existing business located at 7840 West Layton Avenue, submitted by Tina Lewis, doing business as Lindbergh Electric, and Frank Gardner Real Estate.
All right. Thanks, Alderman Kastner. So Panera Bread's applying for a signage plan appeal. The master signage plan, which at this multi-tenant commercial building currently allows just red channel letters and red monument sign inserts, and also for signage beyond the maximum size that they're allowed. Their tenant space is 40 linear feet, which would allow them a maximum of 40 square feet. So Panera is requesting a channel letter sign set that's 68.15 square feet with brown channel letters, and then a monument insert to match the face. And staff recommends approval of the signage waiver.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries unanimously. Item five, signage appeal for Orthopedic Hospital of Wisconsin, a proposed business to be located at 4830 South 76th Street, submitted by Brandon, doing business as Orthopedic Hospital of Wisconsin, and Carrie Conrad of West Dallas Blue.
So Orthopedic Hospital of Wisconsin, like the Panera situation, is applying for signage beyond what the code allows. Currently, they're allowed the maximum of 50 square feet of signage. In May, the Plan Commission recommended approval of increasing the tenant canopy. So the Orthopedic Hospital of Wisconsin is requesting signage that would be proportional to the size of the expanded entry canopy. They're proposing a channel letter set that's 130.5 square feet, which is well beyond the maximum signage allowed, but is in proportion to the expanded canopy. So staff recommends approval of the signage plan, signage waiver.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? None. Motion carries. Signage plan appeal for Loomis Amico, an existing business located at 5030 West Loomis, submitted by Tim. Canopy Refresh LLC and Didier Sahir, 120, doing business as 124th Street Inc.
Thanks, Alderman Kastner. So the Loomis Amico is rebranding from the mobile. So they currently still have the mobile signage, and they're wanting to now move over with their Amico signage. In the zoning code, there's a section specifically pertaining to special uses in non-residential districts pertaining to gas stations, which says canopy roofs shall be architecturally compatible and connected to the main building. Signs or distinctive emblems, but not the color banding, may be considered for the canopy by the Plan Commission. So they're requesting the two Amico names and then an Amico logo to be placed on the three facades of the canopy, along with the color banding. So the two Amico illuminated channel letters would be 24.3 square feet, and the logo would be 30.8 square feet. There is currently the mobile branding on two sides of the canopy, so they would be adding the logo to a third side, which isn't currently there. But staff doesn't have any objections and recommends approval of the signage waiver.
And this is a three-sided building as well, based on where it's, I mean, the lot, so I don't see any issue with this at all. I'll make a motion to approve.
I'll second.
Only thing under discussion I'd like to say or add to this is that typically with the gas stations, I'm not opposed to over branding, over color flying the canopy, but it's when we get the added free signs they get from their vendors that look like garbage. They put them up at Memorial Day and take them down on Labor Day, if then. So if they can be at least cooperative on that respect. That's all I got.
I would concur.
All in favor?
Aye.
Against? None. Motion carries unanimously. Item 7, signage plan appeal for Hasseless Mattress and existing business located at 7740 West Layton Avenue, submitted by Aaron, doing business as Hasseless Mattress, Inc.
Thanks, Alderman Kastner. So Hasseless Mattress is they currently have signage over the entry canopy, which shows actually the incorrect name of the business. But they're requesting moving that over to the western facade above the windows, and requesting signage beyond what's allowed in the code. They've got about 66 linear feet of frontage, which would allow for the maximum of 50 square feet of signage. They're requesting 88 square feet of signage. Again, the sign would be located on the western facade. So that would require a lowering of the existing awnings. So they would add 3 new awnings to the western facade. And staff recommends approval with the caveat that the facade above the entryway be painted or patched, because there's currently some staining from the previous signage, and with this signage, if it's approved, being moved over, it would probably be even more obvious. So staff would like that to be cleaned up if they move the signage over to the western part of the building.
Did they change the name or they just?
I think that the name somehow, when they put up the original signage, they may not have had room. It says Hassel SS is what it currently has on there, not Hassel Less. So I'm not sure if it was a specific change or if they just had incorrect signage at some point put up.
I don't know.
I don't remember either. I can't place the building. Is there canopies on the other side?
On the other side, no. The dialysis side, there aren't any awnings.
Okay.
Is that what you were
That's
referring to?
basically, yeah. So they're not going to match, but there's none there to match.
Right.
Okay. Entertain them.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Any more discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed?
Was that Brad that seconded?
Yes.
Thank you.
Motion carries unanimously. Item 8A and 8B, special use review for Jen's Sushi Seafood and Bar, a proposed restaurant to be located at 7401 West Bernard Avenue, submitted by Yenna Jen, doing business as Jen's Restaurant, Inc., Jen's. And with B, site review plan for the proposed restaurant at that same location.
Thanks, Alderman Kastner. So Jin's Sushi, Seafood, and Bar has an offer to purchase, or I think at this point now has purchased the former Outback building on Barnard and 74th Street. So the applicant is proposing a full-service restaurant, sushi restaurant with table seating, a sit-down sushi bar, and a smaller bar with mixed drinks, wine, beer, and sake. The property is zoned C4, which would allow the business as a special use. So they currently are operating under the special use permit from the Outback. So this is a special use review for the new tenant. The proposed hours of operation for the restaurant would be Monday through Sunday, 11 a.m. to 10 p.m., which is a reduction in the hours that were approved for the Outback Steakhouse, which was 8 a.m. to midnight. The applicant anticipates having approximately 15 employees and 70 guests on weekdays and approximately 120 guests on weekends. And the applicant has successfully renovated and operates currently the Lover's Lane Sushi and Seafood Restaurant Buffet in Franklin. With the site plan review, with the special use review, there is a site plan review. The site is in pretty rough shape, honestly, since Outback has moved out. There's a large number of trees that have been dead, and probably have been dead while Outback was still a tenant, but haven't been looked at. The applicant has gone out with the city forester, and they've marked some of the trees for removal. The tree on the left, you can see there's a red dot where the city forester has marked that one for removal and replacement. A lot of the evergreens, the very large evergreens, are dead and need to be removed and replaced. Some of the parking striping is faded, and again, some bushes located against the building are dead and will likely need to be replaced. The paint on the refuse enclosure is peeling and should be repainted to match the existing. There's where the Outback signage was located in the gable. There's some staining or where it wasn't painted previously, but the applicant anticipates painting the gables and possibly painting the roof, so that won't be as obvious with the new signage would go there as well. The city forester and the applicant have marked up the existing landscape plan, denoting which trees would likely need to be replaced. The restaurant tenant use requires 93 parking spaces, and there are currently 99 parking spaces on site. So this is an example of how the exterior, the applicant anticipates painting the roof black. The current green roof is fading and chipping. A lot of the paint is coming off, so they'd like to take care of that and paint it black, and then paint the gables a gray color to sort of match the theme of the building shown on the right. So just that kind of color scheme. Staff recommends approval and recommends getting a revised site plan showing the landscaping modifications and a restriped parking lot, with that work to be completed by June 2020. And the revised site plan and the removal of the dead landscaping and general site cleanup should be completed. Staff recommends that be completed prior to occupancy of the restaurant.
I'm guessing from the nodding.
Hello.
Can you?
Hello.
Just wondering, are you gonna be doing any of the landscaping improvements and removing any of the dead landscaping now?
Yes, ma'am, we will do that. Actually, we have an easement with the front of the strip mall. I talked to the manager, his name is Frank, and we're gonna work. Well, I already have a proposal to do all the work, and then we will figure out the cost and we'll move forward. Before the occupancy, we're definitely gonna finish the whole project. Yes. The timeline, we, once we have permit to do it, then we will start. It's gonna finish within a month. Yes.
What's the anticipation of the opening of the restaurant?
We are hoping for early December or end of November. Hoping for that. Yes.
Same format as the Lover's Lane buffet?
It's actually different. We do have a seafood delivery company from Port of New York to here, so we would like to do more of live seafood. And so we're gonna have live lobsters, and we are gonna add like scallops, and so it's more high-end version of Lover's Lane buffet. It's also gonna be like, we won't have like a huge bars, like the buffet bars. It's gonna be ordered, they made to order. And then it's, yeah, the same amount per person, but they're gonna order, and then the server gonna deliver to them. Yes.
I like that.
Thank you.
Any other discussion other than
No.
her commitment to our city? Entertain a motion for approval of 8A and 8B.
I'll make a motion to approve.
I'll second. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Good luck.
Opposed? None. Motion carries unanimously.
Thank you.
And welcome. Item 9A and 9B, special use review for Alex's Auto Repair and Transport, a new automotive repair business located at 5049 West Loomis, submitted by Alex Ponce de Leon, doing business as Alex Auto Repair and Transport. And the site, item B, and the site review for the same location.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We have an application for a special use review, proposing an auto repair business in the back building on the site. There are two, well, I guess technically three buildings on the property. The one picture on your left, you can see Southwest Auto Body. That's what you see from Loomis, most visible from Loomis and 51st. And then the back portion, the pictures on the right, are not very visible from the street, but that's the portion of the building that the applicant would like to occupy for the auto repair business. This site is under a special use permit from 2015, when there was a change of ownership, and that triggers the special use review. The proposed hours of operation, which were also identified in 2015, are 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. Monday through Saturday. I'm just going to go through a series of pictures of the property as it is today. I guess most recently pictures were taken last week, Thursday. There's a situation where there are just an abundant amount of vehicles on the site. And the tenant, Southwest Auto Body, seems to be the tenant that stores and has all of these vehicles on site. As the second tenant use obviously hasn't started business yet. So we have a staff along with the code enforcer actually met the property owner, the proposed new tenant, and the tenant of Southwest Auto Body on the site, and identified the problems that you can see before you. We have vehicles that obviously can't run or shouldn't be aren't drivable, especially in this bottom left picture are some examples. We have a refuse enclosure plopped in the middle of the site. We have vehicles parked in the city right-of-way. This is the building that the applicant would like to occupy. There's some exterior improvements that should be made. We have gravel parking lot in the back, and you can see the pavement has been busted over time. And again, just some more examples of pictures of vehicles that should not be out on the site. This is not zoned, for lack of better term, a junkyard. It's approved for auto repair. And with that being said, you can see the aerial photo with the property lines highlighted here in the top left picture. You can see in 2018, and if you go back previous years, there's a history of vehicles being parked in the city right-of-way. There's also a fence here. If you can hit P, yeah. This picture right here, this fence is actually located in the city right-of-way. And you can just see that overall, the site hasn't been kept in a clean and code-compliant condition. So with that being said, staff is recommending a list of conditions and improvements on the site. Items 5 and 6 before you in red, staff would recommend be taken care of prior to an occupancy certificate being issued to this particular tenant. That the back buildings be painted, and that the east door on the back building, which is this door right here, be replaced. And as the Plan Commission has done in the past, they've approved projects that require maybe a substantial amount of money and improvement to go into the site. They've extended or they've offered an extension of time to the property owner, to the applicant, to make those improvements. So staff is recommending that items 1 through 4, which include a plan showing resurfacing, repavement, and actually striping of the entire lot, construction of four-sided board-on-board refuse enclosure, removal of the chain link fence, and repair of any retaining walls, that a plan be submitted within 1 year, October of 2020, and that the actual work be completed by October of 2021. Our thought with the striping is that a notation should be placed on the plan. The vehicles can only be parked within the parking stalls. That will reduce the opportunity for an overabundance of vehicles like this being parked on the lot. So vehicles can only be parked in designated striped parking spaces. So with that being said, that is staff's recommendation that we receive those plans and that the work actually be completed by October of 2021. We do have the applicant here and actually the property owner are both present.
Question for you, since the lease is only 18 months, wouldn't we want the timeline only 18 months?
That's a good point. Sure.
I mean, items 2, 3, and 4 are not overly expensive items.
Sure.
I mean, if it makes sense to at least require them to do that and remove the cars from the right of way. I mean, is the applicant here
And the property
and the
owner?
owner? Is he willing to say yes or no or address or?
To your point, I think 2 through 6, you could put that a 6-9 month window, and then have the last one be the 18th month, or the number 1 be 18 months, because it is the biggest and most expensive.
Yeah.
I don't think that's unreasonable.
Is that acceptable by the property owner? I assume that, I mean, this is kind of a
A joint venture.
joint venture between 3 people. And the verbiage junkyard is probably not far off from what is being presented to us in photographs that are not old, after you were told to kind of clean up your act.
I clean my side though, you know, that we're still working on cleaning up though.
Pushing cars out of the right of way isn't that difficult.
That's the one on the front, on the body shop.
Well, what I think we're gonna need to do is get a commitment for you, to do these, 2 through 6, and then the owner commit to getting the number 1 done by, the 18th month timeline. Again, I'm sorry, your name, sir?
Alexis Ponce de
Alex.
Leon.
Okay, so you're gonna be the occupant for this,
For the back part,
for the back part,
not
not the front.
the existing, whatever.
But that's where we need the owner to commit to making sure this all takes place. We need commitments verbally from both of them.
I agree. I mean, either that or we just kind of hold it over and not approve it. I mean,
Until
that's,
they're ready.
yeah. I would like to see some semblance of order here.
I think it's a good idea to wait to see what gets done before we okay anything. So,
And the owner's here? Yes. Sir, could you come forward? I'm sorry, what did you say, sir? Can you state your name?
Into the mic.
I still waiting too long for the license. And the body shop cleans them for everybody body shop. I don't know what you're seeing wrong.
You don't see what we see wrong with the pictures of the site?
The picture is old, you have to check now pictures. Before was
week old,
junkyard,
correct?
now still very clean.
You're saying the pictures that are a week old are not representative of your property today?
No, this is not even, what is the black asphalt, to just put the paint in
This was
straps.
taken on Thursday.
This is no fair from you guys.
This
I
is
pay
5
the
days old?
taxes already, 6,000 for the garbage.
I got some other picture on my phone that if you want to see them, when I paint the pavement on the bottom of my side.
This is no fair from you.
What'd you say regarding a fence, sir?
What?
I'm sorry, could you repeat what you said?
This is not fair from you guys to stop the license.
Not fair from us to stop the license.
Yeah, because the mechanic shop, body shop, not gonna be like office.
But what he,
It's not fair for you to be parking vehicles in the city right away and having a fence installed in the city right away, and other property owners can't utilize that land as theirs either. I mean,
I don't think it's unreasonable to, quite frankly, to have the number of these addressed before occupancy is given. I don't think that's unreasonable,
I
I agree.
agree.
because otherwise, they're just not, I don't have a lot of faith they'll get done. So do I think you could knock out 2 through 6 before occupancy and come back in a month from now to get it? I think that'd be reasonable.
Or
Clean the
get them
construction part.
accomplished and staff give
Or
occupancy.
Yeah, we can do it subject to that. Have staff check it off. You prove that they're all done, 2 through 6, then occupancy is given. And then give 18 months to have the parking lot repaved. Is that reasonable?
Yes.
That'd be my motion.
You could, you guys could give me a week, I could do it in a week.
As soon as you're done with numbers 2 through 6,
Then she, yeah,
talk to staff and they'll come out and view it, and then they'll give the occupancy permit. Absolutely.
As
Okay.
soon as 2 through 6 are done, talk to Christie, and you can get that.
Okay.
And then just worry, you have 18 months to get number 1 done.
Okay.
The repavement.
Right,
Okay. All right, I will comply.
okay,
any other items that have been discussed in the
right.
staff comments as well?
So as long as staff's happy, then you get occupancy.
Okay.
Perfect.
Thank
All
you.
right, we have a.
have a motion and a second.
Motion and a second. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? None, motion carries unanimously.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good luck.
Yeah, good luck, thank you. Item 10A and 10B, special use permit for proposed massage therapy business, Me Lee Spa, to be located at 3775 South 108th Street, submitted by, I'm gonna mess this one up too, Zenbo Gunu, doing business as Me Lee Spa, and the site plan review for the proposed massage business is 10B.
Thanks. So the applicants are proposing a massage therapy business in the Garden Mall multi-tenant commercial building. The property is zoned C4, which would allow the massage therapist business as a special use. The applicants are proposing services including hot stone massage, Thai massage, trigger point massage, deep tissue massage, acupuncture massage, Swedish massage, and facial massage. They anticipate having 2 employees on site with the proposed hours of operation of Monday through Sunday, 10 a.m. to 10 p.m. And this would be in approximately a 900 square foot tenant space located in Garden Mall. Just as a quick aside, the Greenfield Police Department has conducted background checks on the applicant and the owner, and those came back without any issues. Staff realizes there have been issues here previously, so we were cognizant of that. The off-street parking required for the massage business would be 6 parking spaces. The off-street parking required for the other uses within the building are 69 spaces, and they've got well over enough parking spaces, with 150 parking spaces on site. With the site review, the site is in generally pretty good condition. It looks like the owner had repaved the front parking lot earlier this year and patched some of the potholes that were in the rear of the building. There were a few issues that staff noticed. There were the refuse containers that are missing their doors, and staff recommends that the board-on-board doors are replaced prior to occupancy. There are also the larger refuse enclosures in the back parking lot. The property owner had indicated that those are for an ongoing construction project for a salon-centric tenant space. So once that build-out is complete, then they will be removed from site. So staff recommends approval of the special use, and a public hearing could be scheduled as soon as October 15th.
I'm sorry, what did you say? The Greenfield Police Department did an investigation of the applicant?
A background check.
Background check? And there was no criminal activities?
There's no issues, and they checked on their massage license for the state, and that was a valid massage license.
Have they owned other massage parlors in the area? Give me 1 second, let me translate. Sure.
As of now, this is the only one we're proposing. We don't have an additional one, but before that, we had one. But that's a few years ago.
Was that in Greenfield as well, or somewhere?
Oh, no, in other cities.
Where?
It's in Michigan.
Oh, in Michigan? Do you know if the police did the background check on those?
I'm not sure if they checked Michigan, but both of the applicants' driver's license that were provided were Illinois, so they did check Illinois and Wisconsin.
I know the other tenants within that building keep a very close eye on, hopefully closer eye on this operation than they have in the past, and hopefully it'll be conducted professionally. Have you, anything else on that subject? The existing facade, there's many holes and many colors of paint. Did we address that and trying to get the facade painted one uniform color?
Sure. That could be part of the condition.
I
For the
think
special
that
use
should probably
permit.
be added to it because it doesn't look good. It looks beat. Other than that, anybody else?
When would Plan Commission like to see the facade those improvements be taken care of?
Before winter? Before the public hearing?
That's all in October.
It needs to be done regardless, actually.
Yeah,
I mean, for the other tenants' sake.
right. And possibly have the Greenfield Police Department check on the Michigan location?
Sure.
And then the name of the facility in Michigan was what? Sure.
Yeah, I know, they should come up to the mic.
Should I translate? It's called 东方之柱.
Can you come up to the?
Can you come up to the mic? We can't. We're going out on the World Wide Web as we speak.
I can spell it out for you if you want.
Please.
之柱 DONG FANG ZHIZHU.
What city in Michigan was it, sir?
What was that?
What city in Michigan?
在密西根的哪个城市？
叫什么我忘记了，挨着我了。
叫什么？He is not quite sure of the address. Give me 1 second. Let me pull up the map.
打开地图我看得到。
对对，你看一下，这是地图，大概在哪？
在我人边上。
这边。
你的英文。
这是密西根。
知道。我。
I can fully understand the concerns, but if there's anything came out, you will show up in the police report in the background check, so should be fine. But we'll provide the information. Give us a second.
Thank you.
Thank you.
这边是密西根。对，这个中间。对对对。
Center line.
Yeah, should be Center Ryan. Is there a place called that?
What's that?
Center Ryan? Let me give me 1 second. 给我看看，我得看他那个的。
但是我选的是中文。
我知道。It's underneath Warren. Oh yeah, there is a.
有个名片给他看。
There is a. Do you want to see it? There is a business card.
How long were you, did
Center,
you have
Center
that
Line,
business?
Michigan.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, okay, that's a no. What was the question again?
How long did they have the business in Michigan?
但你们在密西根那边开了多久？
没有多久，4个月，因为他那边天气很冷，冬天，然后就是冬天不停的撒盐，什么车都气都全部熬坏了，我就没在那里开了，然后转给别人了。
Okay, so it's been going on for about 4 months, and the condition of the weather is too crucial, and we don't have many customers, so that we have to shut down the store.
Oh, so it was only open 4 months?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Thanks.
There's no public hearing with this one?
There would be a public hearing.
One,
Huh?
Yes, public hearing.
Oh,
there is, yeah, there is, I don't.
I'll make a motion to approve this, subject to the staff's comments, with the additional comment of the police background check for Michigan as well, but also to have the awning painted to match, have that completed this fall.
I'll second.
any further discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
So we're
Thank you.
scheduling a public hearing.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So what's next?
You have the common council, there'll be a public hearing. What's the date of the public hearing?
They have to come in for an application for that? No, that's already been paid?
October 15th, there'll be a public hearing for the special use permit.
Like here? Okay, so they will be here?
Yeah.
Okay. We will get notified.
I'll let them know.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Item number 11, site or certified survey map to combine 2 existing parcels located at 4361 South 43rd Street, submitted by David Patrick. This is basically housekeeping. Make a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries unanimously. Item 12, ordinance to amend section 21.04.0603 of the municipal code pertaining to various permitted and special use listing amendments listed.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is also some housekeeping cleanup of our zoning code. I was going through the hundreds of NAICS, 6-digit NAICS codes, and eyeballing a few items that just didn't seem out of place to require a special use. The items that you see before you, bookstores, tape, CD record stores, electronics, appliance rentals, recreational goods rentals, all require a special use permit today. This is basic retail, and staff feels strongly that these should just be permitted uses. In addition, there is a code called, on the top 448190, called Other Clothing Stores. Today, these uses require a special use permit. They include a bridal gown shop, a dress shop, leather coat stores, school uniform stores. I don't know the exact history or why many years ago this particular item was categorized as requiring a special use, but maybe the word lingerie clothing was scary, and that is grouped in that category. So staff is proposing to single out lingerie stores to require special use permits for those. in an effort maybe to regulate hours of operation for that purpose. But the other uses should be permitted uses in our code. Another example is hospitals today are permitted in a planned unit development, and the medical field is growing. And I actually received quite a few inquiries from developers for hospital and additional medical uses in the city of Greenfield. And maybe in preparation of future applications to allow that process to be smoother, and also some common sense here, staff is proposing that that be a permitted use in the busier zoning districts, C4, C5, and planned unit development, which basically is Highway 100 and 76th Street. So this summarizes the basic cleanup, proposed cleanup. Again, some uses, basic retail uses that today require special use should be permitted uses. And then a public hearing would go before the Common Council next week.
Videotapes had a negative connotation at one point in time, but I don't think you'd be renting videotapes without the
Yeah,
other paraphernalia
That's true.
that are questionable. I'd make a motion to approve as presented. Any other discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed?
Yes.
Yes, was that Brian?
One opposed.
One opposed.
Okay.
Motion carries. Item 13, discontinuance of West Homes right-of-way commencing at 76th Street and continuing west for approximately 250 feet. That's all it is? I guess so.
Yeah, it would be in line with the proposed southern development, which, as of last week, Friday, are now owned by the developer. Though they closed on those ownership of those two properties. So, so a public hearing has been scheduled for next week, September 17th, and with that, a plan commission recommendation is required. And so I'll just explain a discontinuance is the official verbiage from the state statutes. A vacation is also a common phrase used here. So the green striped hatched area is today right-of-way. With a vacation or discontinuance, the state requires that the city is moving forward with this application. The city has to offer the northern half of that to that abutting property owner, and the southern half to the southern property owner. And the owners can accept the discontinuance, the accumulation of land, or they could reject it, which can be overturned by a 2/3 vote by the Common Council. But in anticipation, this has been a project that we've been discussing for a very long time. Both property owners are very well aware of the situation and have and are acceptable to the addition of half of Holmes Avenue.
Great.
Next step, make a motion to approve.
I'll make a motion to approve.
I'll second.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? None, motion carries unanimously. Item 14, the big item, comprehensive plan update and housing report project kickoff. Review of the project schedule and public participation plan, updated demographic, housing and economic data, and opportunity analysis. Who's doing this one?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. If we could just give us 1 second to switch to the different PowerPoint presentation. We have Jackie from Vanderwall here this evening to do a presentation and get the Plan Commission and members of the Common Council engaged in the upcoming process of the city's update to the comprehensive plan.
Oh, great, and there's a folder. Let me just make sure I can. Awesome. There it is, thanks. Well, thank you. Thanks for your patience.
Jackie, I'm not sure it's turned on. You gotta.
This guy? Let me
see a
test it.
green light come on.
Yes.
And then,
There we go.
Is it off?
okay.
Is she on?
Mic's on.
Yeah.
Well, thanks so much. My name is Jackie Mish. I'm a urban planning consultant with Vanderwall and Associates. I'm excited to be here with all of you to kick off the comp plan update process. As you may recall, Vanderwall and Associates did your first smart growth plan 10 years ago. I don't know if any of you were involved at the city at that time, so we're really excited to be back again doing that. This is going to be a multi-month process, but more of a streamlined process than you did in past years. So there's a lot of really good content that you have in your current plan that I think is good to build on, and so we're hoping to do more of a surgical update to get through the process a little bit faster and still keep a lot of the good things that are in your plan right now. So just pushing the wrong button. There we go. So a little bit about Vanderwall and Associates for those of you who don't know us. We are a multidisciplinary firm. We focus on economic development, urban planning, urban design, market analysis, and real estate as well. So we do a lot of different things, which when it comes to doing something like a comprehensive plan that touches so many different aspects, we really do bring a lot of expertise to that type of process. We have 2 offices. We're based in Madison, so home office is in Madison. I worked there for about 4 years, and then now I've been in the Madison office, or excuse me, in the Milwaukee office for about 2 years now, and I grew up in Wauwatosa. So this is our project team at the top. We're headed by our principal at the Milwaukee office, Jolena Presti. Myself, I'm your project manager, and then Ben Rohr will be the assistant planner on the project. He'll also be taking the lead on the housing report process, so I'll talk a little bit more about that later. Just wanted to mention too that we do have the whole Madison office and Milwaukee office at your disposal. If something comes up during the planning process, it's a little unusual. We need to look at something more deeply. We can access all those staff members for a specific project, whether it's design or economic development. So just a little bit of background, especially for those of you who were not here 10 years ago. I'm sure you're all fairly familiar with your comprehensive plan, but what is it exactly? Why do we do this? First of all, every community in Wisconsin is now required to have a comprehensive plan. It's an outcome of the state's smart growth legislation from 1999. And so a lot of communities adopted their plan right around 2010, which was the deadline. You guys got in a little bit early, so kudos to you. But a lot of communities like Greenfield are now on their 10-year birthday for the plan. And so we're doing a lot of comp plan updates right now, in fact. And so that requirement to update the plan is a state requirement as well. The plan's also required to touch on 9 different elements, and you can see those on your screen here. Includes land use, housing, transportation, a number of others. And so, one critical idea of the comprehensive plan requirement is that as cities, cities tend to be a little bit siloed, so making sure that as we plan for growth, as we plan for change, coordinating things such as utilities and community facilities, transportation investments, to ensure we're all reading from the same playbook. So purposes, there's a lot of good purposes for the comprehensive plan. Plenty of cities had comprehensive plans before it was even required, just because it is an important document to have. Key things that it accomplishes is to identify areas for redevelopment or development over the next 20 years, so it really has a long outlook. It also recommends specific types of land use for specific areas in the city, whether that's changing or whether that's staying the same. Directs different types of development, whether it's housing or commercial. The plan also identifies, based on the types of growth that we're planning for, what types of utilities or transportation facilities we might need. And then finally, the plan includes detailed strategies to make the plan come true. So a little bit about Greenfield's comprehensive plan. It was adopted in 2008. It has all of the 9 required elements in the plan, but it also includes a few things that not every other comprehensive plan includes. One of those being the opportunity analysis map, which I believe is included in your reading packet. Every comprehensive plan has a future land use map, and we'll talk about that in a bit. And then the 2008 plan actually had a number of special interest areas highlighted in the plan, for which there were a little bit more detailed concept plans for areas that were considered of importance to the city. So here is a very small version of map 17, which is the opportunity analysis. And we'll talk about this a bit more, but I just wanted to show you one of the more prominent features of the plan that you have. And this is the future land use map. So the future land use map is really kind of the centerpiece of the comprehensive plan. It designates different land use categories for every parcel of land in the city. And per state law, all zoning changes or zoning actions need to be consistent with this map. And so this is where the comprehensive plan really has teeth. So if somebody comes proposing to put a factory in the middle of a residential district, not only is that not going to be consistent with zoning, but you can point to your comprehensive plan and say, we couldn't even approve that rezoning if we wanted to. So that's kind of a way to really lock in your, it's not technically future zoning, but it's sort of a way to help you think about the role that the future land use plays. So it helps you really lock in your vision for the community. So this is something that we'll work closely with staff to evaluate, make sure this is still reflecting your vision for the city. Typically, you'll see that these yellow areas, which are your single-family neighborhoods, tend to stay the same as we update the plan, but we'll take a close look at some of these commercial corridors and other key intersections and make sure that we've got the right designation for the next 20 years. So I just wanted to share with you the project schedule. Here is the timeline that's included in your packets. I recognize it's a little tricky to read. Walk through each of the work elements with you very briefly. Feel free to ask any questions as I go through this. So work element 1, it's where we're sitting right now, data collection and opportunities analysis. So we already had a kickoff call with your city staff, and we're beginning to review the existing plan document to identify what areas need to be updated. And then from there, we'll begin to update that opportunities analysis graphic. Work element 2 captures all the project coordination tasks and meetings that are included in the process. So first bullet is our joint kickoff meeting. You can check that one off. We're here tonight. Later, we will work on we'll talk about the public participation plan for the process. And then you won't see me for a while because we'll be back in the lab working on the draft. But I'll be back November 12th tentatively. By then you'll have had the draft plan in your hands and we'll discuss what's the contents of that. Late November, early December, we're hoping to have a public open house so the public can tell us how we did on the plan and see if we missed anything. And then before we go to the public hearing, there needs to be a 30-day review period, which is a state requirement to give the public enough time to read the plan, review the plan, and then if they want to come to the public hearing and share some thoughts, they can do that. We typically recommend doing a joint public hearing, Plan Commission and Council at one meeting. Not only is it more efficient, but it's also helpful because for some reason the state has required that the council holds the public hearing. And so we think before the Plan Commission moves to recommend the plan to the council, they should really hear that public testimony. And so we recommend a joint public hearing so both bodies can hear everything before you move to adopt the plan. This is currently scheduled out at February of 2020. This is kind of a worst case scenario. I think we could move this up a month if everything goes smoothly. So this is kind of a stretched out schedule to accommodate any uncertainties. So we will keep you updated as that schedule changes. And then finally, work element 3 is the plan document itself. So the staff right now is working on reviewing and marking up the plan to alert us of changes that we should be aware of that they would know specifically. As I mentioned, there'd be a draft 1 for Plan Commission review in November, And then we'll prepare a second draft of the plan following Plan Commission review for public review in December. So with that, I'll turn to we've done a little bit of preliminary data pulling and analysis so far. Chapter 1, I think, is in your Plan Commission packet. So I just wanted to share, if you didn't get a chance to fully digest that, just wanted to share a few highlights from the data that we found, and these will filter into the types of recommendations we make in the updated plan.
Could I just ask a quick question? The color-coded map that you showed us with the different uses,
Yes.
would it be possible when you revise it that we have the old map and the new map for comparisons?
That's a great idea.
Yeah.
Let me make a note of that. Great.
I think last time we looked at the current zoning as well, Matt. Right.
Oh, yeah, yeah. Yeah, we'll do that. And obviously, if there's major changes, we will bring those to your attention. So into the exciting stuff, data. Just wanted to share with you, again, a few highlights based on the latest Census and American Community Survey data. This table is showing population trends for Greenfield since 1980, as well as those for nearby cities and villages, as well as Milwaukee County. So kind of a modest population growth experienced by the city. As you can see in the table, it's about 4.5% since 2000. But compared to other communities in the table, you're actually growing at a faster rate. A reason we're seeing slower growth in these types of communities has to do with a number of different factors. One is the fact that I think all of these communities are fully built out, and so there's not a lot of greenfield expansion. So there's not going to be a new subdivision that adds significant population. Another factor is declining household size. I don't know if that's something that you guys have been experiencing here or talking about here, but the idea that each housing unit now accommodates fewer people just based on changes in lifestyle and preferences. And so even though you've added over 1,000 housing units in the last decade, population isn't really growing at the same pace. Another thing that we do as part of a comprehensive plan update is to project your population forward. So the plan has a 20-year outlook, and so we want to at least project what the population will be in 20 years so that we understand how many people we need to plan for. We did 2 different sets of population projections as part of the plan. The State Department of Administration issues population projections for every municipality in the state. And so those are certainly helpful to look at. They kind of have their own black box formula. We're not really 100% sure how they get to the figures that they do. I know that they do use past trends as one input, but they're showing that by 2040, which is the furthest out that they project, here we go, that the population will be up to 41,750. So going back, going the wrong way. So the 2017 estimate for Greenfield is just over 37,000, and so by 2040, up to 41,000 is a pretty big jump. In your past plan that we did for you 10 years ago, we looked at the Department of Administration's population projections at that time, and they were way high. I think they were predicting like 15% growth or something like that. And so we were a little cautious about using the DOA's projections again. And so what we just did is a simple compound growth analysis based on the past growth that you've had since 2000. So as I mentioned, you all grew from about 4.5% since 2000. So we just applied that forward. And so that puts us at about 39,360 by 2040. So in my opinion, this is a little bit more of a more likely scenario. And so that's what I would recommend that we use for the plan. Looking at age trends, generally speaking, Greenfield's a little bit on the older side. pretty much the trend throughout the state is that the population is aging. I don't think that's a surprise to anyone here. But we did notice that if we're just looking at folks over 65 for the last census periods, that population has stabilized somewhat in Greenfield. So it's not, I think we're seeing much sharper increases in average in senior populations in other communities. Just looking briefly at housing values among the, and household size. Among the comparison communities, Greenfield has a somewhat lower average household size with 2.23 people on average per household. And you'll see that housing values among the comparison communities lie roughly in the middle. You'll see, places like New Berlin, Greendale, Hills Corners have higher home values, but then other communities have lower in the table, and then rent more or less follows the same pattern. Right. Let's see here. Okay, so this is our opportunity analysis graphic. So this is the graphic that we're going to update based on existing conditions, new existing trends, evolving trends. Basically, things have changed a lot, or at least a little, in the last 10 years. And so we need to take a look at how we're visualizing the city. So what this graphic is assesses the assets that Greenfield has and looks at some of the challenges that the community faces and looks at those collectively to identify where the city's key opportunities lie, not just geographically, but also based on trends and what the market's doing. And so this graphic, I think I've got this on a slide here. Yep, so this graphic kind of highlights the geographic areas in the city where we thought 10 years ago that you should highlight your energy or focus your energy and what specific identities each of these different areas might have. So this is, if you did have a chance to look at the 2008 comp plan, up front there's an opportunity analysis kind of introduction. It's like 3 or 4 pages where we explain all of the content on this opportunity analysis graphic. So that document highlights what Greenfield's asset base is. So in 2008, it was considered to be your regional location and access to the Milwaukee metro area, affordable life cycle housing, meaning lots of different housing for different types of lifestyles and ages, the Root River Parkway, and numerous promising redevelopment sites. I would just guess that a lot of this is probably going to stay the same. And then the opportunity analysis at that time identified the challenges of a mid-century suburb, so a community that developed primarily after the Second World War, limited in how much you can grow, competition with other communities, and so that opportunity analysis identified some strategies for you guys to stay competitive within the region, and then recognize that living in a place like Greenfield with a suburban lifestyle but access to urban amenities is still really desirable, and so you guys have a strategic advantage there. And then from there, it goes into numerous different locations on the map. I've highlighted your, quote, Main Street location in this image here, so that's Layton Avenue, and identifying different economic roles for each of those areas and how to make the most of each of those areas. So I won't go through each one of them. We can if you want to, but they're on the map, and that's something that as we go through this process, we will work with you to make sure these still make sense and maybe identify some new opportunities. I should say we expect to identify new opportunities. Oh, and just one last thing, wanted to mention that the opportunity analysis also included some recommendations on how to make these opportunities come true and what it takes to do that. So I don't need to read all these to you, but kind of the idea that the city really needs to take the lead in redevelopment, and you can't really sit back and wait for the certain type of development that you want to come to you. Typically it means that the city needs to take a more proactive role, whether that means working with developers, recruiting, planning, even financial incentives to get the community and the type of development that you desire. So with that, I hope you don't mind, but I had a few questions. And if this is something that you all want to think about and we can talk about at the next meeting, that is absolutely fine with me. But I did want to hear if any of you had thoughts about how the city has changed since 2008 and what you hope that what we should know as we update the plan. Would you guys be open to that, or do you want to do that another time?
Anybody?
Well, I think one main thing how it changed, obviously, 84 South was a target 10 years ago. Actually, that's a target probably 20 years ago, quite frankly, that school district, and it finally came to fruition over the last 5 years. It's still being built out, as you know, but that's I'll call it a huge win for the city, what we were able to accomplish collectively and really get that done. Also opened up some areas just east of that, literally across 84th Street is a potential as well, and some new sites going just east of that as well. So it's a ongoing process. So some of the targets have come to fruition. The Loomis intersection, Loomis Road and 94, or 894, excuse me, that's another target that was on the list back then. Obviously, that kind of got tabled with the state reconstruction of the freeway, but that's another one that's, I know, on the roadmap for near term at least.
I'd say too, the enhancement of Conkle Park, especially all the activities going on there now, it's bringing a lot of people into the city.
Absolutely.
Do you think that the Plan Commission and Common Council has been more welcoming to more dense projects? I mean, Fiduciary, for example, is very, very dense compared to the Forte apartments compared to other developments in the city.
Well, I guess that answers the question. Yes, we have. We have been very much more
Has
receptive.
that been a conversation that has taken place?
Yeah,
It's been
definitely.
evolution, quite frankly, over, if you go back, I know some of us have been on here 20-plus years, to see the density, like the Hawks Nest over at Whitnall High School and some of that development take place, because it started as a condo, now it's an apartment, and it made sense because of the economic situation at the time. Is that better? Can you hear better? Okay. So I think those have helped over the last 20 years, quite frankly, accepting some of those type of projects. And I expect to see more of them, because we're also seeing more and more people willing to live in that type of density. Where 20 years ago, the market wasn't desirable to live in a densely, apartment building like that.
Urban sprawl is not what it used to be.
No, Forte is very much, with 84 South, that is, kind of a poster child for a well-done development.
I think Highway 100 is underutilized with the traffic and the traffic counts and what is there and what is the potential there. We've taken some control of Alan Kowicki Park, which is already been enhanced and been a better site, which will hopefully bring more business and more activity and better green space.
Shirley and Bruce, if you have anything to add, we'd, of course, love your input with the discussion, too.
Can we tell her to speak into the mic?
Yes.
What did you say? Alder woman?
We couldn't hear you.
We couldn't hear you.
Can you come up to the
Police facility.
The
law enforcement center?
law enforcement,
In the library.
I think that was done 10 years ago.
I think it was in the works, or it was potential in the plan anyway.
It was in the works.
Mhm.
Yeah, we've seen both the high schools get improvements in that time period. Whitnall had quite a bit done. Greenfield's had quite a bit done. New complete facelifts in the last 10 years, quite frankly.
27th Street, did we do that after this?
We did.
Errol's
We did.
Yes.
Business District?
Yep.
We have a new
Forming
business.
that.
I'm guessing you're gonna unearth all these things on your own, but
Anything about how, I like Christie's question about maybe like mindset changes, anything besides density that comes to mind? We're seeing other communities suddenly, or not suddenly, but embracing multimodal transportation, including bike trails especially. Is that something that you guys are seeing?
It is, bike trails, we've incorporated those in a number of projects, condo projects, more mixed use. I think acceptance, we're seeing more and more of that.
Mm-hmm.
Alderperson Akers just texted me and said to mention the community center, which was the old library, and that's kind of a center of different activities going on in the city.
Great.
We've had more sidewalks, particularly around schools.
Yeah, we're trying to be more pedestrian friendly, I think.
Great.
And I think that's a common theme in Milwaukee County, quite frankly. The bike paths throughout the city of Milwaukee, even some of the county. You see that even us, communities just south of us, Greendale and Franklin, you see more of it there as well. That development's, obviously, some of the things we've done has impacted them and us in a positive way.
That's great.
Hopefully more kids can walk to school now. That should help the school districts.
Yeah. Excellent.
I'm actually interested in what your projection is and what can be done with the big boxes that still remain within our city, and how to capture or utilize them or redevelop or whatever it takes.
Yeah, we've worked with a number of communities on that, and we could share some ideas.
Right.
So I got a question, because I'm new to Greenfield, so newer in the last year as a resident. So what about in the last 10 years, has it been, where seeing that older, like it's been shown older folks, I think, as younger, I guess, generations, more progressive, families moved into Greenfield? I don't know if that's, if you guys have seen that or even tracked that too.
I don't know if we track it, but I think you're correct. And
I'm assuming so, I mean, I don't have moved here, but.
Anecdotally, I'd say yes, but I don't have the stats or the data to back that statement up.
Right.
But developments like 84th Street are gonna bring in younger generations.
But I think
Highlands too.
we also have to keep in mind our population and make sure that our population grows so that, we have people paying property taxes and supporting the city. So we have to always look at housing options or how to improve residential subdivisions that we currently have and try to maintain those as such.
That's a great segue into my next question. Population growth being one of them, other priorities or areas of concern that big box stores, that we should address in this plan update? Anything else?
Yeah, the big box, I mean, there's a number of targets you can see of areas that need to be redeveloped. Whether it's a big box or some things, even some things we had in the agenda this evening with some of the businesses that have been there for 40, 50, 60 years, that are long in the tooth, quite frankly. And the challenge is making the right mix. And we've done some TIFs in the past for very specialized things, with which some were received well, some were not, quite frankly. So I think that's a nice arrow to use when it's appropriate. But yeah, I'll be very interested to read some of that.
I think traffic patterns and traffic flow are a big concern. 76th Street is crazy, Layton, that's crazy. Loomis and.
Can you speak up?
I'm sorry. Traffic patterns.
Great point.
Pretty busy now, and there's not much room to expand roadways, so we gotta find different ways to get people around and
Safely.
get them to our businesses.
Hopefully Highway 100 and Hales Corners will be finished soon, because that'll certainly help businesses at our end of Highway 100.
In this decade?
Huh?
In this decade? or next
Hopefully,
decade?
hopefully.
I'm guessing during this next 10 years of this comprehensive plan, our stretch of Highway 100 will be reconstructed. And then after that, then the Hale interchange would be reconstruction, would be my guess, within the next 10 years.
Well,
Maybe.
Layton from Loomis to 27.
2021.
Keeping bus route 55 extended all the way 100. County bus route 2055. I don't know what's that, but it was cut.
I think the 27th Street corridor is still in ill repair, and businesses, that area
Still
is
wrong.
just deteriorated. I think that needs to be improved to improve the rest of Greenfield.
Well, that's a cooperative effort with other cities, so.
That one's never-ending effort, I think. That's your point, is we started and we can't just rest on what we have accomplished, because it's gonna take.
Correct.
Yeah, and 27th, I mean, has got a lot of just kind of kind of all over the place as far as development right now.
Very hodgepodge.
They have the psychic reader next to, you know, a big business and
Anything else? All right, I've got one more for you. I think we maybe covered it, but is there anything else that the planning process should consider that we haven't discussed already?
I think transit in general, we're seeing, you go to other communities, people are renting cars by the hour. I travel a lot across the country. It's very common in the big cities, especially on the West Coast. And how that's going to impact not only our streets, but quite frankly, how people move about. Mass transit's not just the answer. It's going to be all these other Uber-like renting of cars. And I think that's going to impact how people live.
Yeah, I know in other places they're seeing way more traffic now because of ride sharing, and so
Absolutely.
what do we do with that? Great. Great, and this is not our last opportunity to talk about this, so I will move us on, but stay in touch, of course. Just wanted to touch briefly on the requirements, on the housing reports that we're conducting for the city. This is a new project for us. This is actually, we're doing this in a couple of other communities right now at the same time, but you guys were first in the queue, so thanks for being our guinea pigs. Basically, the reason that we're doing these housing reports is because the state passed legislation saying that by the end of 2019, any community that has 10,000 people or more needs to prepare 2 different housing reports. Most municipalities are not thrilled about this new requirement because it does involve a lot of pulling of city data. Basically, there's 2 different housing reports that are required. One is the housing affordability report, and so that one's a little bit more involved. Basically, the purpose of it is to kind of show what the city's fees are and other requirements are that would affect the cost of housing and housing development. And so just in a nutshell, the city needs to provide data related to the amounts of development that they've approved in the last 2 years, prepare a map of undeveloped or potential redevelopment parcels that could potentially have housing. And so that map in particular is one advantage of doing your comprehensive plan at the same time, because we'll be looking at redevelopment sites and what they could potentially sustain as part of the comp plan update, so that dovetails nicely with this requirement. We are also required to summarize the city's current development regulations and describe how that impacts the cost of affordable housing. One thing that Vanderwall and Associates, we've been talking internally about how to address these reports, because you could just meet the requirements that the state wants of you, and it could just sit on a shelf basically, or on your city's website, because you have to put it on your website. But we've been thinking about ways to make this actually a useful tool for the city and something that you guys can do something with. And so we're talking right now about how we can include recommendations to make this a more valuable tool. So not only looking at the city's existing development regulations and how they affect housing, but looking at other ways to get more affordable housing in your community that isn't necessarily pointing the finger at the city's permit fees, for example. And so we hope to work with you in preparing a draft that provides a little more value than just a simple number crunch. So we'll be working on that. And then the second report is the housing fee report. And so this is the one that's the compilation of all the development fees, including data on how much you've collected in the last 2 years and what your fees total up to per dwelling unit. And this one, if the city doesn't meet the deadline for this one, there's actually a penalty involved with it. So we are motivated to get these reports done by the end of the year. We right now don't see a problem doing that. It's just a matter of getting all the data and getting it all sorted out. So here's a quick overview of that process. We've already had our quick kickoff meeting work session with staff. Now we're working on data gathering and analysis, and we'll have draft 1 reports ready by November 1st. So that's both reports. From there, we'll have staff review it, make sure we didn't miss anything, and prepare a revised draft if we need to. We have the ability to come back to Plan Commission on December 10th and present it to you if you'd like. And then from there, we can finalize the report by December 31st. Like the comp plan update, this is kind of a conservative timeline, so there's a chance that we could do this faster than indicated on the slide. Oh, here's my timeline, showing us finishing by the end of the year. And that was all I had for this item. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We got to move on to item 15, which is basically the same thing. Discussion and decision to adopt resolution 2-2019 to recommend the Common Council to approve and adopt the public participation plan.
I'll make a motion to approve. I'll second.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? None. Motion carries. Anything else before item 16? Motion, entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Wait,
Oh.
just one thing.
While we're on TV?
To, on behalf of everyone, thank Brad for his dedication and service to the Planning Commission for length of time that
10
you've
years,
been here.
pretty much.
Around 10 years.
Yep.
And we greatly appreciate your input on everything that we've had.
And we will have a reception immediately following the meeting.
Thank you, Brett.
Thank you, Brad.
Welcome, my pleasure.
All in favor of the motion? Aye. Opposed? None. Motion carries. We are adjourned.